Joining me today on the Culture Catch is a man who truly defines the word impresario. One of the great stories in America, really. His family from Chicago, the Butler family, and his own legacy will be known for one of the greatest rock and roll musicals of all time, or one of the greatest musicals of all time, Hair. The producer and esteemed friend of mine, and a great human being, Michael Butler. Michael, welcome to the Culture Catch.
Mark, it's a pleasure to be here.
You got to call me Dusty, remember?
Dusty.
We're branding.
Dusty.
You're not the first, you won't be the last.
Okay.
We're branding here. Michael, tell us a little bit about your upbringing. You don't have to go into great detail, but just, you're a man of letters and all of that, and then making your way into the world of theater producer.
Well, I come from a family that's been in this country since 1654. We were Irish, Anglo-Irish refugees from Cromwell, and came over at that time. Ultimately, we were paper makers and wound up in Chicago, this area outside of Chicago. We were the largest landowners in DuPage County, which was the county next to Cook, and had a very successful business in paper, aviation, and other interests. Cattle and horse ranching was very important to the family in those days. It's a very interesting background. I was raised with our farm, which had 13 polo fields and could house 400 horses.
I know you have no love for polo.
And two packs of foxhounds. And I mean, it was just a life that is no longer possible. But it was an incredible childhood. I was raised by a highly conservative, right family, secular right. Religion was really not a major thing to the rest of the family. And my father and I ultimately became a strong member of the military-industrial establishment.
All right, so you have a gardener.
Yeah.
You get yourself into a little reefer.
Yes.
And was it good stuff?
Oh, it was not bad. It was not bad. Actually, it wasn't stuff out of the garden by that time. He was growing it. It's stuff that he brought from some other location, because we kept the plants growing while it was going on. So anyway, towards the end of the summer, we were into our own produce.
Was this an entrepreneurial venture at this point?
No, not yet. If it continued, it probably would. But he was a pacifist, and he was going to be dragged off to war. And I got very emotionally involved with him, because I began to realize, while I had always been a military industrial hawk, that this war, which was not going to affect me personally, was a terrible thing to these kids. So I really began to, my whole thinking began to change. Now that was towards the end of the summer of '67. In September or early October, I forget exactly when, Otto Kerner was appointed chairman of the Civic Rights Commission, and later known as the Kerner Commission about Civil Rights. And his co-chair was John Lindsay, who was the mayor of New York. So Otto had to come here to New York, and he asked me to come with him. I was in many ways sort of an ADC to Otto. If he needed a drink, I'd find it. And, I worshiped the guy. I'd do anything for him.
That's aide-de-camp for you people who don't know pseudonyms.
Yeah. And so we came to New York for these meetings, and I belonged to the Racket and Tennis Club. And I went into the bar one day, and I picked up a newspaper. And the newspaper, New York Times, and I looked and I saw in the theatrical section an ad for Hair, the American tribal love rock musical. First, the name Tribe struck me, and second, the photograph was of Indian braves. And I thought, my God, the Indians have got a show together. Well, this is very important if you remember what I said about the BIA. But even more so, the closest member of my family to myself was my grandfather, who told me also, who had a big ranch in South Dakota and 5 ranches in Montana, and was very heavily in the cattle and horse business. And my grandfather told me horror stories about the way the Indians were treated, and about them being shot for sport and things like that. And just he just was horrified. So I had great interest in the Indian movement. So I thought, my God, the Indians had got this show together. Well, I got tickets to the first preview. It was the opening show at Joe Papp's Anspacher Theater down at the Shakespeare Festival.
This is where the public now is.
Public, yeah. And it was the public, but he had never, he had just built the Anspacher, first show. And what I discovered was not so much an Indian show, but I discovered the most anti-war statement I'd ever seen. And I thought, my God, this would be perfect to take for my constituents in Illinois.
One final question. The nickname Bear.
Yes.
Why the nickname Bear?
When I used to be called Tiger, because I was born in the year of the tiger by the Chinese astrology. And but when I was living in England, I had a girlfriend whose name was Boo, and she started to call me Bear. I don't know why. Never knew why. And out of that, then Robert Peicher, who was over there a lot, she was calling him Bobby Bear.
Let's see that tattoo. Show him that bear claw.
Well, it was something that Boo came up with, started calling me Bear. And then there was Robert Peicher, who was Bobby Bear, and Stuart McKenzie, and Michael Daly, and mostly polo players. There are a whole bunch of people who call Bear, and they're now a very small fraternity. We get together every now and then. And usually with the locals are terrified, like the last time we were together en masse, where we teepeed my sister's house.
How about the other tattoo?
The other tattoo? Well, that celebrates peyote.
It celebrates
peyote. A peyote trip that I've taken 2 of them, actually.
Tell us about your peyote trip. I think if this is the story you told me about with John, is it?
Yeah, right. It was, well, I went the first time I took peyote, I went to New Mexico with Peter Yarrow.
From?
The Peter, Paul, and Mary. And we went to we were going to see Wavy Gravy in the hog farm. Peter said, well, we've got terrific talent there. We've got to go look and see. You can get some good people for hair and so forth and so on. We took Fred Reinglass, who was the PSM, production stage manager of hair, and the 3 of us went to Santa Fe. We got a car and we went up the mountains, and Peter said, well, on the way we should go visit my friend Tom Law, who's the head of a group called the Juke Savages. And so we arrived just as they were taking peyote. Peyote dipped in psilocybin.
How long of a trip were you on?
Well, it was all one night, the whole night. And so we never got to the hog farm. And that's where how I met John Philip Law, who became a great personal friend.
Object.